Voice to the World, I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Campaigning for 7th and final phase of Lok Sabha election slated for June 1st reaches its peak. In the aftermath of Cyclone Ramal, multiple landslides triggered by rain across northeastern state of Mizoram lead to 28 deaths and several others missing. The stormy Donald Trump hush money trial comes to its last stage after 6 weeks. Prosecution and defense are making final arguments for the jury's consideration. South Africa goes to polls today in what is being billed as the most unpredictable election in the country's 30 years of democratic rule. And Indian mountaineer Satyadeep Gupta sets record by accomplishing double dual ascent of Mount Everest and Mount Lhotse. Well, on to the details now. In an interview to a news channel, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi discussed the ongoing general elections, emphasizing the BJP-led NDA's commitment to development. PM Modi also spoke on many important issues.
दुनिया को चिंता थी कि इतने बड़ा देश दुनिया के लिए संकट बन जाएगा, लेकिन यही तो देश संकट तो न बना, देश को भी संभाला, दुनिया को संभाली। दुनिया को दवाइयां चाहिए, दुनिया को वैक्सीन चाहिए, और आज दुनिया के कई देशों से आप जाएंगे, जैसे कि आप इंडिया का हो, थैंक यू, आपने वैक्सीन दिया था, हर भारतीय को लोग थैंक कहते हैं जी, प्रधानमंत्री को थैंक, हर हिंदुस्तानी को थैंक्स कहते हैं, और वो पब्लिकली एक्नॉलेज करते हैं जी। तो ये भारत के लिए मेरे गर्व की बात है, मतलब है भारत के सामर्थ्य।
And emphasizing on the importance of a self-reliant India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that in the next 5 years, he would like to focus on vocal for local and promote on Atmanirbhar Bharat.
आप आत्मनिर्भर भारत की मजाक उड़ाएंगे, क्या लॉजिक है जी? क्या कोई अमेरिका वाले इतनी ऊंचाई पर होने के बाद भी बड़े गर्व से कहते हो कि भाई बी अमेरिकन बाय अमेरिकन? यस। तो मुझे आत्मनिर्भर भारत कहने में संकोच क्यों होना चाहिए? मैं वोकल फॉर लोकल की बात क्यों ना करूं? मैं डिफेंस में कब तक ये दुनिया से माल खरीदता रहूंगा भाई? मैं खरीदार बन गया। आज भी मेरे देश का 2-3 चीजें हैं जैसे जो मैं आने वाले 5 साल में मैं ज्यादा मेहनत करना चाहता हूं। जैसे हम वैसे तो एग्रीकल्चर कंट्री है, कृषि प्रधान देश है, लेकिन कृषि प्रधान देश होने के बाद भी करीब 1 लाख करोड़ रुपया खाने का तेल हम बाहर से लाते हैं जी। खाने का तेल, चलो पेट्रोलियम के लिए हमारी मुसीबत है तो हम लाते हैं, समझ रहे। अब मैं उस पर मिशन मोड पे काम करना चाहता हूं, और मैं भारत आत्मनिर्भर कैसे बनना चाहिए। फायदा क्या होगा? मेरे किसान को फायदा होगा जी। अगर ऑयल मेरे देश के अब खाड़ी का तेल की झाड़ी का तेल, तो मेरे खेत का तेल होगा तो मुझे ज्यादा फायदा होगा।
And now let's get you the latest on the world's largest election in India. Well, India is all set to vote for the 7th and the final phase of general elections. 57 constituencies across 8 states and union territories will vote on the 1st of June. Fate of 904 candidates will be decided in this phase. 13 seats each in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab, 9 in West Bengal, 8 in Bihar, 6 in Odisha, 4 in Himachal Pradesh, 3 in Jharkhand and 1 seat in the union territory of Chandigarh will go to the polls in the 7th phase. Meanwhile, campaigning for the final phase of Lok Sabha elections has reached to its peak with just 3 days left for polling. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to address rallies in West Bengal and Odisha. Another BJP leader and Home Minister Amit Shah will hold rallies in Uttar Pradesh. BJP President JP Nadda will be campaigning in eastern Indian states of Jharkhand and West Bengal. While top leaders of opposition parties are also making a last-ditch attempt to woo the voters in their favour, Chief of Congress Party Mallikarjun Kharge will hold rally in Odisha. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi will be holding rallies in Himachal Pradesh. Well, one of India's battleground states, Bihar, was the talk of the town in recent times due to its challenging and changing political alliances. It accounts for 40 lower house seats, the fourth highest in India. Up next is a report which tells you all about the state's political and historical significance as it goes to polls in the last phase of India's general election on the 1st of June.
The eastern state of Bihar has made immense contribution to the country's history. The first pan-Indian kingdom, the Mauryan Empire, was established here, with its seat at Pataliputra, a region adjacent to the state capital, Patna. The national emblem of India was adapted from the Sarnath line capital of the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka. Two ancient centers of learning, Nalanda and Vikramshila, are also located in the state. During the freedom movement, Mahatma Gandhi launched his first civil resistance movement called Satyagraha in support of indigo farmers in Bihar's Champaran in the year 1917. Post-independence, Bihar emerged as a politically significant state, spread over an area of about 98,000 square kilometers. Bihar has 40 seats in the lower house of parliament, the fourth highest in the country. Bihar has 76.4 million registered voters, out of which 40 million are men, nearly 36.4 million are women, while over 2,200 belong to the third gender. Coming to the state's current political scenario, it is governed by the Janata Dal United with the support of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Other prominent parties are Rashtriya Janata Dal, the Indian National Congress and the Lok Janshakti Party. Looking at the 2019 general election results in Bihar, of the total 40 seats, BJP won on 17, while the JDU bagged 16 and the LJP got 6 seats, while the Congress bagged just 1. Amid the polls, all the eyes are keenly observing the volatile dynamics of coalitions in the state, which has always been springing up surprises at the last moment. Election Desk, DD India.
Well, at least 28 people, including 2 minors and a pregnant woman, have been killed and several others missing in multiple landslides triggered by rain as an impact of Cyclone Remal in different parts of the northeast Indian state of Mizoram. 18 people, including a 4-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl, died and many more people were missing after a massive landslide took place at a stone quarry at Miltham area on the southern outskirts of Aizawl. Of the 13 victims, 9 were local residents and 4 were from outside the state, official sources said. In another incident, 4 people, including 2 non-tribal, died when landslides swept away houses in Hemen area on the southern outskirts of Aizawl near Miltham. At least 5 buildings have been swept away by landslides at different locations in Fulcorn village, about 15 kilometers from Aizawl. One person was killed and another is still missing in the incident. One more person was killed at Langsai near Aizawl when a building collapsed due to a landslide. Rescue operations are underway. Officials said that incessant rains on Monday and Tuesday triggered landslides at several other places in the state, causing damage to more than 16 houses. Aizawl district was the hardest hit. Landslides also damaged cemeteries and more than 200 graves have been swept away at Republican Wing, ITI Wing, Kanan and Kulikan area in Aizawl. More than 14 houses and a government quarter have also been damaged by storms in several parts of the state, officials said. A refugee camp and crop areas have been submerged by the inundation of Tat River in Mamit district. And India's Union Health Secretary Apurva Chandra held a bilateral meeting with Lord Markham, Parliament Under Secretary of State, United Kingdom, on the sidelines of the 77th World Health Assembly of WHO in Geneva. The two countries discussed critical issues pertaining to the mobility of healthcare professionals to the UK. India also highlighted the ongoing work on building two digital portals to facilitate healthcare workforce mobility to other countries and medical value travel. And former U.S. President Donald Trump's hush money trial reaches its final days after lawyers made their closing arguments in the case. The jury is likely to begin deliberations this week in the first criminal trial of a U.S. president that has gripped the country and much of the world. Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 charges of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential elections. Well, lawyers are using their final chance to sway a jury in New York as Donald Trump's hush money trial reaches its final days. The jury is likely to begin deliberations this week in the case that has gripped the U.S. and much of the world. Mitch McCann reports for more.
It's the role of defence lawyers to go first in the closing arguments of a criminal case here in New York, and we heard first from Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's lawyer, in court. He opened by saying that President Trump is innocent. He said he had nothing to do with these hush money payments and that he did not approve them in the first place. Todd Blanche really took aim at Michael Cohen, one of the prosecution witnesses. Of course, Cohen is Donald Trump's former lawyer and fixer. He said Michael Cohen is the MVP of liars and that he is the GLOAT, the greatest liar of all time. He said that the jury should find a quick and easy not guilty verdict when it goes out to deliberate. Meanwhile, the prosecution sought to weave together a clean narrative based on the evidence it had presented in recent weeks to the jury. It said that Donald Trump lingered behind this whole hush money scheme and that Donald Trump got Michael Cohen to do his lying for him. It will now be up to a jury to deliberate and decide the future of Donald Trump, who says this trial is a witch hunt. I'm Mitch McCann in New York, reporting for DD India.
And now from news around the world, the Salvadoran Navy seized almost 3 tons of drugs in 2 operations. According to authorities, 6 people were arrested on Monday. The 6 detainees were from Mexico, Colombia and Ecuador. A painting by Italian Baroque master Caravaggio went on public display for the first time on Tuesday, described as one of the greatest discoveries in the history of art. It's on display in Madrid's Prado Museum. The painting, Ecce Homo, had been lost since the 19th century before re-emerging in 2021. Recently discovered unpublished work of Nobel Prize-winning American folk singer-songwriter Bob Dylan are set to be auctioned off. The work includes handwritten lyrics which will be sold in an online event by Lionheart Autographs scheduled for the 5th of June. Actor Dakota Fanning and producer M. Night Shyamalan walked the red carpet for the premiere of horror thriller film The Watched on Tuesday. The film is based on the novel The Watchers by A.M. Shine and marks the feature directorial debut of Ishana Night Shyamalan. The Watched will release in the UK and Ireland on the 7th of June 2024. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. South Africa votes today in what is being billed as the most unpredictable election in the country's 30 years of democratic rule. Czech Prime Minister Peter Fiala hosts Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal and leaders of some European Union allies in Prague. In a collaborative effort, the Indian Embassy in Muscat and the National Archives of India completes first project to archive historical documents of the Indian diaspora in Oman.
As India decides in the world's largest election,
we help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This election season, join us on a journey of India.
We are in Assam. This is the tea city of India.
From down south, Tamil Nadu.
Discover the colors of democracy.
Gateway to northeast of India.
Coastal state of Kerala. Watch Poll Pulse on DT India.
Welcome back. You're watching DT India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, French President Emmanuel Macron and Germany's Olaf Scholz held a joint Franco-German cabinet meeting in Grancy, a town in Germany, on Tuesday. The leaders said Ukraine should be allowed to hit military sites inside Russia from which missiles were being fired at Ukrainian territory but not other targets. They added as long as Ukraine respected the conditions given by countries that supply the weapons, it was allowed to defend itself. Earlier, Russia's Putin warned the West and said by proposing to let Ukraine use Western-supplied weapons to strike inside Russia could trigger a global conflict.
We think that we should allow them to neutralize the military sites from which the missiles are fired, the missiles and basically the military sites from which Ukraine is attacked. But we must not allow them to hit other targets in Russia, obviously civilian capabilities or other military targets.
Les sites militaires d'où sont tirés.
And Czech Prime Minister Peter Fiala hosted Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal and leaders of some European Union allies in Prague on Tuesday. Peter Fiala said a Czech-led initiative has raised 1.6 billion euros for Ukraine and will speed up the ammunition deliveries. He added the first deliveries from the initiative, which sources supplies outside the EU, will happen in June. The money so far had come from 15 EU and NATO members without giving details. The talks in Prague also included Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, Latvian Prime Minister Evika Salina and Polish President Andrzej Duda.
Czechia continues to develop the ammunition initiative in coordination with international partners. 15 EU and NATO countries already contributed over 1.6 billion euros. Our efforts will soon improve Ukraine's defense. As I promised, the first tens of thousands 155mm ammunition will be delivered in June. Ukraine can expect the first shipment within the next days.
Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting Moldova on Wednesday. Blinken will land in Moldovan capital Chisinau, where he will meet President Maia Sandu and other senior officials. He'll also aim to solidify Western support for Ukraine across NATO allies and neighboring countries amid Western alarm over Russian gains. The U.S. top diplomat's trip comes as Ukraine is trying to fend off intensifying Russian attacks in the east. Meanwhile, the U.S. said it does not encourage or enable the use of U.S.-supplied weapons to strike inside Russia.
We don't encourage or enable the use of U.S.-supplied weapons to strike inside Russia. I would note that the Ukrainians have, in the past, defeated imminent air attacks, such as some of the ones that have occurred in the last few days on their own since the war began.
Moving on, Azerbaijan's border service has taken control of 4 villages in the Kazakh district on the border with Armenia under an agreement. Azerbaijani Deputy Prime Minister Shahin Mustafayev said the size of the territory returned to Azerbaijan under a border delimitation agreement on Friday was 6.5 square kilometers. Armenia had said in April it would return the uninhabited villages to Azerbaijan, which both sides said was a milestone on the road towards a peace deal between Yerevan and Baku, who have clashed for more than 3 decades. The decision by Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan to hand over the 4 villages has triggered protest at home, with demonstrators calling for him to step down over what they cast as a betrayal. And Georgia's parliament voted on Tuesday to override a presidential veto of a bill on foreign agents, which has sparked several weeks of protest in the capital, Tbilisi. Tuesday's vote to ignore the objections of Georgian President Salom Zorovich-Vili sets the stage for the Speaker of Parliament to sign the bill into law in the coming days. The bill would require organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from overseas to register as agents of foreign influence. Opponents of the bill have for more than a month mounted some of the largest protests Georgia has seen since independence. The US, Britain and the European Union have all criticized the bill. Russia also denies any role in backing the bill. And the United States condemned the Georgian parliament's vote to override the presidential veto of a bill requiring groups that receive funds from abroad to register as foreign agents. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller told reporters on Tuesday that the foreign influence bill fails to conform to European norms, and the United States condemns this action.
As it relates to Georgia, earlier today, the Georgian parliament voted to override the Georgian president's veto of an anti-democratic foreign influence bill that fails to conform to European norms, effectively turning the bill into law. The United States condemns this action. In passing this law, the ruling Georgian Dream Party moved the country farther away from the European integration path and ignored the Euro-Atlantic aspirations of the Georgian people, who have taken to the streets for weeks to oppose this law.
And in the U.S., a military plane crashed near the Albuquerque Sunspot on Tuesday. The crash site was secured by official and emergency vehicles, with a group of firefighters distinguishing the fire at the charred wreckage. According to officials, the pilot was the sole occupant of the plane, as was transported to a nearby hospital for treatment. And South Africans are voting today in what is being billed as the most unpredictable election in the country's 30 years of democratic rule. The governing African National Congress is projected to lose its parliament majority for the first time, possibly paving the way for the country's first coalition government. DD India's Isaac Lucando reports from Johannesburg for more.
27 million voters are taking part in the 7th national and provincial elections in South Africa since 1994. This is happening across 9 provinces and at more than 23,000 polling stations. South Africans are voting for a National Assembly, which will determine who will be president for the next 5 years. There is widespread dissatisfaction among the country's 62 million people. This poses a significant challenge to the ruling African National Congress, or ANC, in power for 3 decades since the time of Nelson Mandela. In recent weeks, opposition parties such as the Democratic Alliance, the Economic Freedom Fighters and MK have increased pressure on the ANC through campaigns and rallies, calling out issues of corruption and lack of jobs. Around 5,000 observers from 160 local and foreign organizations are monitoring this election. There have already been 2 days of special voting in which approximately 1.6 million voters were allowed to vote early. Final results are anticipated to be announced on the 2nd of June. Isaac Lucando in Johannesburg, reporting for DD India.
Well, you're watching DD India Live. Time now for some sports news. Indian mountaineer Satyadeep Gupta has scripted history by becoming the first person to scale Mount Everest and Mount Lhotse twice in one season and the first Indian to traverse the two peaks in 11 hours and 15 minutes. Gupta scaled the 8,516-meter high Mount Lhotse on Monday at noon and the 8,849-meter high Mount Everest at 12:45 a.m. midnight, according to Pioneer Adventure Expedition, which organized the expedition. And in a collaborative effort, the Indian Embassy in Muscat and the National Archives of India completed a first project to archive historical documents of the Indian diaspora in Oman. The event saw participation from 32 prominent Indian families from Gujarat, whose presence in Oman dates back to 250 years. This was NAI's first overseas venture in digitizing diaspora documents and supported by Oman's National Records and Archives Authority.
The Government of India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, has always emphasized a sustained and better connection of India with its diaspora. The unique digitization project that we have undertaken here in Oman for the preservation of the archival documents of the Indian diaspora in this country will, we believe, not only contribute to preserving their unique histories, but also enable a better understanding of their experiences, adventures and contributions.
Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.
यकीन है खुद पर।